Welcome back to the 412 podcast from FBC Mustang in Mustang, Oklahoma. My name is Jeremy Davis. I'm the associate pastor here. I want to welcome everybody to the show, and we have a great show for you. We have a very special guest, someone that we were not planning on getting to have here in the studio with us. But today we have Dustin Stottmann, who is the pastor of Hope Valley Church in West Jordan, Utah, and he is one of our former student ministers. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Man, it's good to be with you today.
I'm so glad you're here. I was not expecting to get to see you until we got an email just the other day from you saying that you're gonna stop by the office. So welcome. What brings you to Mustang?
Yeah, so our sending church, which is First Baptist out in Weatherford, Oklahoma, has a missionary from Slovakia in town that they wanted us to be able to connect with, and so just a quick overnight trip in, but I wanted to make sure to stop by and see our friends here.
Excellent. So you have some history here at this church, and FBC Mustang has grown quite a bit over the last several years. So perhaps some of you out there listening are not familiar with Dustin or his family, Sarah and their girls. But Dustin, tell us just a little bit about your history here at our church, how long you served here, and kind of what that looked like.
Yeah, so I came to First Mustang in February of 2009 as a single middle school minister.
Okay.
And a year later, I had a wife named Sarah, and within the next few years, we had our daughters Ellie and Sadie. We were here for 7 years. It was a great joy to serve here. We have such fond memories as we think for all of our family, the connections that we have here, and thinking about the work that God did here and the people here. And it's been such a joy to keep up over the years since we left in spring of 2016. But whenever we get a chance to come back and visit or to visit with people from here, it is always a great joy for us.
That's great. So you are in West Jordan, which is in the Salt Lake City area. It's in the valley there in Salt Lake City. So tell us just a little bit about what you're doing there, what the work is that's going on there, and what led you to that area.
Yeah. So, as you said, West Jordan is a suburb in what we call the Salt Lake Valley. Salt Lake Valley is a area of about 1.2, 1.3 million people, but it's all bound by mountains. So it's, just this one valley. The broader metro is 2.5 million people right now. And the most striking thing about where we live, it's a beautiful place. It's surrounded by mountains. We can be skiing in 40 minutes. There's a lot of really, really cool things. But the most striking thing is that this whole area is a place that is 97% without Christ, without the true gospel.
Yeah.
And of course, maybe if someone knows one thing about Utah, what they probably know is that it's the home of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, often called the Mormon Church. And so in our direct community, probably about 60% of our neighbors are members of the LDS Church. Now, it's kind of like here, where there's also like a nominal nature to that, right?
Sure.
So maybe 30-40% is active and devout in that. But there's a lot of people who, even if they're not active doing all the things, they would still identify that way.
Yeah.
And then that leaves about another 30% who are just non-religious. Some of those are ex-LDS and would want nothing to do with church of any kind. And often in a setting like ours, they have no awareness that there even is any other kind of church.
Right.
And a couple other small things mixed in there, but it leaves about 2.5% that are evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
And it's pretty striking because it's a place that looks pretty perfect. It looks ideal in so many ways, and it's heartbreaking when you reconcile that with the fact that this place is so spiritually dark and lost.
Yeah.
And as over a course of a year or two in 2018, 2019, God laid a burden on our heart for church planting type work and revealed to us one step at a time, this place of West Jordan, Utah, and just gave us great clarity that, okay, this is where you guys are to be. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where we've had to continually remind ourselves the words of Jesus to Peter in Matthew 16, like, I will build my church. The church is his, it is not ours, and he will do the work. Right. Because I can't figure out how to do this on my own, right? It is overwhelming when we think about that, as it should be in any Christian ministry, right? But it's particularly aware we think about our context there. But it's been a tremendous adventure and journey, and blessing to see God's provision and his hand in that.
That's wonderful. So you move there, you learn of just the dark state of the spiritual nature that's there. So what did the church planting process look like for you? Kind of how did you get started in that? What were some of those first steps that you took as you moved out there? Did you get a job? How did you go about that and moving your whole life out to West Jordan?
Yeah. So we decided we wanted to do it when the whole world was turned upside down. And so we moved in July of 2020.
Yeah.
Not by design, but by we were serving at First Baptist Clinton. I was a youth pastor there. Uh-huh. And everything was already in motion. They'd already hired my replacement there and everything. It's like, okay, we're heading out.
Going, yeah.
Which was actually a really neat thing, because we even more so saw all of the ways that God provided through that. We got there July of 2020. We had raised support, so I didn't have to find full-time employment right away or anything. But what we did do is find ways to jump into meeting people in our community, to serving in our community. I jumped onto the PTA board at our girls' elementary school. I'm the only guy in that room. And Sarah and I together are the only non-LDS people in that room. And but things like that of just seeing where can we make connections, letting people know that because when you move to a new state, right, and someone finds that out, the first question is always, what brought you here?
Right.
And so to answer that question of, hey, we're starting a new Bible-based Christian church. Mm-hmm. And so we spent the first 10 months apprenticing also with another church plant just in the community just south of us, as a couple years older than us. Okay. And building those relationships, and looking towards launching that following year in fall of 2021. There are a lot of people, and it was our hope and desire, and there were many times that we thought we had people that were on board that were going to move out and get jobs and serve alongside us and things like this, and to have a bigger team as we started and all of this, and it didn't happen. So we got to September 2021, and there were essentially my family and one other couple that were serving in the church. And for us, though, I think one of the lessons we've seen in that is when we talk about church planting, we can often hear okay, here's the way this is supposed to go. Yeah. Here's what you're supposed to do. If you don't have X, Y, and Z, you're not supposed to do this. And there's a lot of advice within that there are wise things and are good things and helpful things. But we're following the call of the Lord. Right. We're not trying to build something by a blueprint. We're walking in obedience. Yeah. And we said, God has called us to this. We have no doubt in that. And so we're going to walk forward with that. And it's, but what we've gotten to see there is, sometimes it's hard to see what he's doing in that. Yeah. But what we've gotten to see, and I was going to share with you a moment ago, is this last month, in the middle of the winter, which is not what those practitioners of church planting would say is when you're trying to have your biggest growth season. The last month has been the highest attended month we have ever had by a lot. Yeah. In the 2.5 year life of the church. And so it is an exercise in depending on the Lord and trusting in Him and knowing that He will do the work.
Yeah.
We don't know what the work looks like. We don't know how it's going to all play out, but He's faithful.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think anybody that gets the chance to go spend time in a church plant, particularly one in an area that is unreached. And as you know, I spent, my wife and I spent 5 years in upstate New York in an area of less than 2% evangelical Christian. There's just a genuineness. There's something that's just very authentic about kind of being stripped down and on your own and kind of isolated. It's very, I don't know, I often think about it when I think, so I'm teaching through 1 Timothy right now in our Sunday school class. And when I think about Paul and where he is under that Roman rule and them being just isolated, this brand new church, they're trying to figure things out. And just trying to be obedient and follow the Lord. And that's so much of what you're doing there in West Jordan. And that's such a neat opportunity to get to be a part of that. It's hard. It's hard work. For those of you listening, we took a mission team there last summer. And we got to spend a week with the Stottmanns in their church, serving there. And we could talk about a little bit of that here in a minute. But you see that hardness, just the hardship that you walk through day to day. But you can also see the joy that you guys have in that. You can see how the Lord is working in you guys, through you guys, and just the small community of people you have around you. And I love getting to go to a church like that. Because when you're unpacking every Sunday morning from a trailer and setting things up and wheeling things out, the people that are there, they're not there because they got, recruited to do it and they don't really want to be there. They want to be a part of that. And that's a very serious thing for them. And I think that's really incredible. I think that should, inspire those of us that we aren't having to unpack every Sunday. It should give us some appreciation for the ministry areas that we are in. But that's absolutely incredible. It's incredible to hear, how the Lord moved you out there and what you guys are doing. Talk a little bit about the outreach that you're doing there. I know you said that you're in the PTA and in the schools, but maybe those in those neighborhoods. How are you targeting your neighborhoods? Are you targeting anybody in the vicinity that may be willing to drive to you, or do you have a very specific place that you're trying to target? Are there certain neighborhoods, certain demographic of people? What does that look like? How are you trying to get to those people to connect with them?
Yeah, great question. So within our city of West Jordan is a city of about 120,000 people. We're focused especially on the west side of our city. So our zip code is about 60,000 people. And the demographics of that area, within that zip code of 60,000 population, there's 54 Latter-day Saint congregations meeting, and there's 2 other churches of any kind. One of those is a Spanish-speaking church. The other is our 2-year-old church plant. And so a zip code of 60,000 people, we're the only English-speaking non-LDS church.
Wow.
Of any kind. And so our heart is very much for that area.
Yeah.
And our desire is not at all to be drawing people from the east side of the valley, to be drawing people from 20, 30 minutes away. Our desire is to be a church for that community, because we believe that we can be known in our neighborhoods. We can be a blessing. And one of our core values that we talk about a lot is to be a blessing. And that impacts the outreach that we do in things. But we can't be that to a whole metro area.
Right.
But we can work hard at being that to the places we live and go to school. And as Christ grows his church and we have a more saturated presence in those neighborhoods and communities, that can be even more readily available. And with what you were just saying, that is also growing the depth of community and closeness and everything. And so that shapes our heart and our desire as we pray for the future of Hope Valley is not praying for the biggest church possible. It's praying for a healthy sized church in this community.
Right.
And for God to bless us to be able to plant other churches in other communities instead of drawing those people over.
Yeah.
And so as we do outreach, family is huge in our area. Family values within the LDS Church are the biggest thing, right? And so because of that, it's a very suburban area, but so the big thing we have is lots of really, really nice parks all over the place. And especially spring through fall when the weather's warmer and nice, these parks are full of people. There's people out all over. And so we do a lot out like that. You guys, last summer we did some things we call camp in the park and party in the park, and these are ways to just show up and do something for free that is blessing with no strings attached our neighbors.
Yep.
And because the benefit of getting to do that in a place without other churches is people haven't experienced this before.
Right.
And so anything that we do outreach-wise catches people off guard and gets their attention, even if they don't engage with it. They notice it, right?
Right.
And so we've seen, starting to see more and more of people that maybe it was a year ago that they interacted with something that we saw, and they've started to ask questions, or they started to come around a little bit from that.
Right.
So things like that, of just finding those ways to be present, to let people know we're here. We also believe that in that, we don't know when the faith crisis is going to happen in someone's life. Right, when the Spirit's going to have them in a place where they are open and seeking, and or just a crisis of life that has them seeking help somewhere.
Right.
And that might be 3, 5, 10 years down the road. We want them to know a place to turn.
Yeah.
We want them to know that there's a Bible-based church that loves their community. And so yeah, that shapes everything we do. Is we just want to be saturated and present where we are, where we live.
Well, that's great. And I know one thing that we kind of talked about while I was out there with you guys, and honestly made me kind of rethink some of my own church planting efforts in the past. Is you guys continue to go back to the same parks over and over and over again, and you'll spend the summer with different mission teams all going back to those same locations, doing the same thing week after week through the summer. And I think that's so wise because you're showing that neighborhood and those people that are there that there's consistency in what you're doing. They know that there's a group of people that are going, and there is this no strings attached, just kind of community outreach thing that's happening. And so even if they see it, if they see it today, they can trust, okay, well, in a month it'll still be there, and then the year after that it's still going to be there. They don't have to worry about it being, just a fad or something that's happening, a one-time thing or anything like that. So I think that's really neat. So a little bit about the LDS Church. So 97% lost, 60% of those at least are LDS. Have you gotten much pushback from the LDS Church? Do you have much interaction with the LDS Church? Obviously, people who are from the LDS Church are ex-LDS, but from the church itself, do you have much interaction with them? And have you gotten any pushback from them? Yeah,
so it's really interesting, the current climate of the LDS Church, and maybe some of the people listening to this have noticed this over the last 8, 9, 10 years, and maybe they haven't been able to put a finger on it, but they've seen these things. Is the LDS Church has been very focused on wanting to be viewed as Christians, and so they've made this a very concerted effort, even just not wanting to be called Mormon. Even a lot of the new temples they're building now don't have the golden statue of the angel Moroni on top anymore because this looks more mainstream without it. So many of these ways. And so a lot of our interactions when we're talking to LDS people, and they hear what we're doing, is something along the lines of saying, man, it's great that you're here. We need more churches. Or you'll hear phrases like saying, man, it's talking about other denominations. And so they're including themselves as a denomination of Christianity here.
Right.
And so because of that, from the kind of church proper, like we haven't had a lot of interactions, but we have had some invitations to like from like stake presidents, which is like just kind of several congregations together. They have what's called a stake to participate in some things they're doing or things like that, and it's a difficult to like discern like what's best with that,
right?
And in those particular things, we've viewed the way those things were presented. We felt like they're trying to get our attendance to give validity to them.
Okay.
In saying we're the same.
Okay.
Right. And so we haven't in those ways. But yeah, it's interesting because at least the public outward image they're putting out is we're the same but different.
Right.
And we think it's great that you're here.
Interesting.
But we don't know what really is said behind closed doors.
Right. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So your family's doing well there. You feel like your girls and family have you've adjusted well to being in Utah versus Oklahoma?
Yeah, we love being there. We it's a great place to live. We really, really love that. Our girls have done really well. At the same time, the greatest difficulty for them is not having a large amount of friends their age that are believers.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. They have really close friends, but they miss that wealth of Christian friends.
Yeah, of course. So. Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some of the fun family things that you do out there? Just give us a rundown of some of your favorite things to do there in the Salt Lake Valley. Yeah,
so as a family, we love to get outside, and we've hit a lot of the sites. Now this is a little further, but going down to like southern Utah, hitting the national parks and stuff. Close by, especially in the summer. There's lots of really good hikes that we can go on, even on a warm day in the summer when, it could be late in the day. We just say, hey, we need to, get out and unwind. So we can drive up 30, 40 minutes up in the mountains, go on a hike, see a couple moose,
Yeah.
So we love the outdoor stuff is really fun. Ellie, our oldest daughter, and I have taken up skiing. So we try to get up and ski every now and then. And so the outdoor stuff is definitely the highlight there, you know. So it's been a lot of fun to get to explore in those ways.
Very cool. What are some of the big like points of interest there in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, so probably one of the biggest things goes with what we were just talking about is LDS, the Temple Square, which is downtown Salt Lake City. It's the historic Salt Lake Temple. Their conference center, which is a 21,000-seat auditorium. The historic Mormon Tabernacle. They have a museum, their office building, and all those things. Just helps to understand that this whole state was founded on this religion.
Yeah.
And so that's, definitely noteworthy. Things to see, places to visit. A lot of people that are coming in are going to be going to see Park City or and visit there. There's a lot of the outdoors really is the biggest draw, especially this time of year. Going through the airport, you'll see tons of. But half the people at the baggage carousel, they have a special baggage carousel for skis and snowboards and stuff, so you'll see tons of that stuff. We're hoping for where I think it's going to happen. We're getting another Olympics in 2034. So I'm really excited for that.
Right.
One of the speed skating venues is like 5 minutes from our
cool.
area. So
cool. We'll have to be strategic when we plan our next
there you go.
our mission trip around that time.
Hey, it's a little ways away, so let's not call it your next.
Yeah, it won't be the next. That's true. That's true. Our next one will be a youth. Some of the youth are going out there this coming summer,
Yes.
and going to spend a week with you guys, which is great. And also, you have East High from High School Musical.
Oh yes,
yeah, that's a big draw.
I try to forget about that one, but yes,
very cool.
The ladies in my house would disagree with me on that.
Yeah, of course they would. So, average church member here in Mustang, how can they help you, support you? What is the biggest thing you need from people?
Yeah, prayer is essential. Please, and I know so many members here at First Baptist Mustang who are faithfully, fervently praying for us, and we thank you so much for that. If you haven't known to be praying for us, please do. Please be praying for my wife Sarah and I, and our daughters Ellie and Sadie, and the members of Hope Valley Church to be sustained by the Lord, to find rest in Him. Be praying for the people we're ministering to. We be praying for people who are asking a lot of questions, who are very close to the gospel right now. So prayer is huge, very huge. Also, man, if you're ever, and maybe it's out that way for work or something, or maybe you say, hey, our family wants to get away for a long weekend, and you decide you want to come to Salt Lake City. First of all, do it. It's a cool place. But come pop in, visit us. It's very much, especially when we talk about doing ministry in that place, it's very much something you have to see with your own eyes to understand on another level. And so we love we love our place, right? And we love what God has called us to, and we love sharing that. And so we would love to have you stop by sometime.
Very cool. Well, Dustin, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with us. Thanks for being here. We love what you guys are doing out there in West Jordan. We will be praying for you, and we'll continue to plan many trips between now and the Olympics and going forward after that as well. Thank you, listener, for joining us for another episode of the 412 podcast. We hope that you will join us next time as we give you another behind-the-scenes look as we strive to equip the church, equip the saints for the work of the ministry. As I said, my name is Jeremy Davis. I'm so glad you're here. We'll see you next time.